Now let's get set up to start building the white box. What I have here is Unity open, and I'm running Unity version, let's see, 4.3.1 F1, which is the current as of the time I made this. So you may have a slightly different version. You may want to use the same one. Unity's pretty solid about its features in the 4.0 release. So anyway, that's the one I'm using in case you're interested. And I've got a pretty simple, basic window here. Some stuff like we're going to load Playmaker into this, so it's not loaded yet. But otherwise, I've got a scene in a game, and really, this is all I need to get started. So let me just pull some of this open a little bit, so we have a little more room to look at what we're doing for the moment. And we're going to put just a few simple things in here to get started. Again, this is a brand new scene I've made. I've got nothing else going on. Just made a new scene, stored it on my project drive, which I run a Thunderbolt drive just so it's nice and fast to capture video and work on games and all that. But store it wherever you do your work, and we'll get started from there. So the first thing I want to ensure is that I've got my modeling app using the same size reference as Unity. So I'm going to just create a cube. There's a lot of, I've seen a lot of neat tricks online and talked to people who have all kinds of different ways and formulas for figuring out what your size is. And you know what? I just do it this easy way. So here it is. I put a cube, which Unity has scaled at 1 by 1 by 1 by default, and I put it at world center. Okay, easy as that. 1 by 1, world center. So you can see all that. I'm going to save this as a new scene because the project's already saved. So make a new folder and call that scenes, because that's the way I am. And I'm going to call this Whitebox 01, because there always ends up being more than one. And there we go. So Whitebox 01, I've got my scenes right here. So that's set up. It's just got a cube and a camera in it, and that's all I need for the moment. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to tab over. I have Maya running. So here we go. Simple, empty Maya scene, and I'm going to create from the Polygon Primitives menu a cube. And I'll just double click to make myself a cube there. And once again, let's come up here to the numerical properties. I'm going to set that to 0 and 0 because I made it out in weird space. And notice I've got the scale set at 1 by 1 by 1 by default. Okay, so let's look at our cube again. I'll press 5 to shift that into shaded mode, and I'll press F to zoom it up full screen. So there I have a cube, same size and same location, world center, right, as the Unity cube, I hope. So let's go test that. I need to save my scene. So I'm going to save the scene as, and I don't need to use the projects or any of that kind of stuff. So for right now, I'm just going to jump to the desktop. I'm going to choose, well, let's just call this Whitebox, and I'm going to save it as a Maya binary. I recommend you save your file from your modeling program as whatever the native version is that Unity will also open. So in other words, it will open a 3D Studio file, it will open a Lightwave file, it will open all these different files. Don't run through the FBX exporter or anything like that. You can also work in OBJ, like when I work in Silo, which I do honestly most of the time rather than Maya. I use OBJ. It works fine too. So all you need is something that carries over the geometry. You don't need to save animation stuff. You don't want to run the FBX importer gauntlet every time yet. And I'll show you why here in a moment. So I've made my cube. I am ready to import this into Unity and check it out. So I'm going to just click and minimize that, and click and minimize that. And well, I've hidden all my icons here, but let me show them for a moment. Here's my white box, right? I'm going to drag it into the assets in my project, which I've got open. I'll drop that in there. Just get these out of the way again. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder in my project and call it models. And put the white box in there. So this is the project file, right? For the Indie Game School project that I'm using in Unity. So I've just moved it from my desktop to there. I've got this Whitebox Maya file now, okay? And I'm going to go ahead in Maya and just make a new scene to clear that out. And let's switch back to Unity really quick. And it takes a second. You saw that little thing flash by, and what it's done is imported that Whitebox file. And I've got a materials thing here. I'm just going to ignore it because it gives me a default. I've got it. I didn't turn it off, but I never use these default materials. We'll get to that in a moment too. So here I have a Whitebox, and you see it's a cube. Okay. So if I have my settings correct, I should be able to drag this into my scene, and they should be exactly the same size. So a lot easier than, trying to scale a character or something, right? So there it is. I drag my Whitebox in, and it's at position 000 because that's where I put it in Maya, so it's going to come in the same place in Unity. Very important to make sure those match. And look, whether I choose my cube or my Whitebox, they're the same. It almost doesn't look like I did anything. Here, let me zoom up. So there we go. I have two cubes. That is the Unity cube, and that is the Maya cube, and they are exactly the same size. And that means that when I stack them up like this, they match. So I have my settings correct. Okay, if my scale was wrong, these two things wouldn't line up. Let me show you in Maya very quickly. In your application, it'll be in a particular place, but just in case you're using Maya, it is under Windows, Settings, Preferences, Preferences. And in this new box, if you look under Settings, I know it looks like a header, but you can actually click on it. Right here, Working Units, I have it set to centimeters. So in other words, 1 centimeter, a 1 by 1 by 1 cube, will equal 1 by 1 by 1 units in Unity. So that's how you match it up. Now your app might be set up by meters. A lot of them are, some by inches, some by feet, whatever. So just make sure, and it could just be units. Different apps have different weird settings. So just make sure that your settings on the output match when you get it into Unity. All right, so it's that easy.